Welcome to Cherie's weight loss journey. Oh man, I got some budding flowers out here in the front yard. Okay, say hello to, who's that? Who's that? Who is that? Who is that? Who is that? So anyway, and then, who is this? Who is this? Purple. Who is that? Who is that? Okay. I had to go and prune some more leaves off of my rose bushes in the back. But that's the way it is. That's the way it was. Hey, Snoopy baby. Yeah. It's my second partner. I mean, the star of the show. He's like, no, not me. I'm your loyal. I'm your loyal fan. And I appreciate it. So, we're getting out today. We're like, yeah, routine is nice. But today, we just want to do what we want to do. Okay? Hold on. Okay. So we're going to go out here. We're going to go for our walk. Because that's necessary. Okay? And of course, you know, I have not been my usual self. And I gotta talk about it. Right? Gotta talk about it. Okay. So, of course, I'm sitting up here like, I was wondering. I'm like, you know, this whole week has been, you know, very heavy on me. Spirit, what's going on? Can I get a witness to what the hell is going on here? And Mercury, oh my God, came up to me and said, listen to me, Cherie. I'm like, who's that? And he's like, Mercury. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, what is all this talk about somebody dominating your birth chart? I'm like, yes. They be dominating my birth chart. And he's like, oh. I said, well, you know, Saturn's one of them. And I told him why. I told him about that alignment with Saturn. And he was like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. But then Mercury tells me, and I'm like, Mercury, how are you here right now? He's like, listen to me. Let me tell you why. You have to be in agreement with Mercury. I said, what? He said, yes. Let me explain to you. I will show you an algorithm that explains what it means to be a sun sign Gemini. I was like, oh, okay. I said, because it seemed like a lot of those people got it wrong. And he says, well, yeah, they do have it, kind of got it wrong. But, they can't explain what they don't understand. Right? You can really only explain what you understand. And a lot of people can't understand unless it's in them. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And he said to me, he says, but not you. I said, me? He said, no, you. I said, me? He said, no, you. So we playing, right? We playing in the astral realms. And then I said, well, what do you mean? He was like, well, they got some of these people out here that had been using Mercury's energy. And I was like, yeah, I noticed that. I noticed they've been using your energy. And he said, that some of them, they have, placements in Mercury. Some of them are sun sign Mercuries. Right? And some of them was born in the house of Mercury. And I said, yeah, I know all of that. I know that, I said, but right now, I've been suffering gravity. And he was like, what do you mean? I told him, I've been suffering gravity. Like somebody's trying to put me in a box. And then on my algorithm came this video about the 3 deacons of Gemini. They said the first deacon was ruled by Mercury. Then the second deacon was ruled by Venus. Then they said the third deacon was ruled by Uranus. I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I said, I see all of those characters in me. And then I got a slap back. I got slapped by the back of his hand, and he said, now, student, didn't you tell people that when they're dealing with astrology, that they cannot be superficial, right? They have to dig deeper. I was like, yeah, I did say that. And then he was like, okay, listen to all 3 deacons and tell me how you see yourself in all 3 deacons. I'm like, all 3 deacons? I'm like, why would I be all 3 deacons when, I'm born on the 21st. I'm born 0 degrees Mercury. And he said, listen! So I'm listening, right? I'm like, okay, I'll listen to the whole video, right? So he was they talked about all of the traits of the first deacon and what it means to be born in that deacon of Mercury. And I'm like, yeah, I relate to that. Then they said the second deacon that's ruled by Venus. I was like, wait a minute. I relate to that too. And he was like, wait a minute, don't you stop there. Because I was ready to stop, right? I was ready to get into all my my ponderings and hypotheses, right? Of my significant relationship with Taurus or Libra, because they're both, ruled by Venus. Okay? And it's like, no. Don't stop there. Do not stop there. I was like, okay. I won't. So then, the third decan is ruled by Uranus. And Uranus is very innovative, right? The second house is very artistic, about that values, right? And then the first house is about, all forms of communication. And I'm like, yes, I have all of those. And to my surprise, Mercury agreed with me. He said, exactly. And he said, do you know how? I said, I can guess. He says, oh, you want to play a guessing game? I said, right? And of course, Mercury laughed. Because Mercury is like, that's why God loves you so much. God loves you so much because you love to learn. And I was like, yes. So I was going in there and telling them how, because I'm, 0 degrees, in the sun sign Gemini, right? But I'm also conjuncting my 29 degrees of Taurus, which is very much the flavor of the second house. And I was like, oh, that's why. When I heard the second house, I was like, oh, yeah. That sounds so much like me right there. That sounds so much like me. Artistic, involved in real estate, loves to, assess how people value things. It was like, yeah. Right? He said, but don't sell yourself short. I said, what? Don't sell myself short. He said, what about that Uranus third decan? I was like, yeah, I do feel Uranus, all through me, especially when I'm called to be innovative. And he was like, well, how do you suspect that happened? And I'm sitting up here thinking about, okay, well, my Uranus placement. My Uranus placement. And the placements that I have in the house of Aquarius, right? And he was smiling at me because he thought that was very clever of how I come up with those ideas, right? And he said, yeah, they probably have some influence on, that Uranus aspect. Yes. We don't deny any influential matters here. And I was like, no, we don't. But then he said, you probably have your chart etched into your mind. I said, yeah, I have my picture etched in my mind. And he said, "You're missing something." I was like, "What?" He said, "You're missing me, Mercury." I said, "How? That's all we've been talking about is Mercury." He said, "Where is your Mercury placement?" I was like, "Ah, snap. My Mercury is placed in the third house. In the third decan of Gemini." He was like, hey, ding, 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 ding. You win. You get the prize. I was like, that's why. That is why when you hear how people will dissect, astrology, but you have to understand that not everybody's the same. Especially me, right? Especially me. And I was like, right. And he said, but didn't you put yourself in the category with other people? I said, yeah. I said, kinda. He said, what do you mean kinda? I said, no, they put me in that category. They put me in that category and told me to stay there. And he was like, really? I said, yes. Yes. And he said, well, did you put that on a petition? Did you bring that before the goddess? I said, I did. And he said, well, what's going on? I said, well, one of the people that is trying to put me in a cage is a justice. And he was like, say it isn't so. And I was like, yeah, who wants to say that? They got a lot of power, right? And so he was like, okay. So what you're saying is there's a justice, a Libra, out here trying to cage you. I said, yes. I've been falsely accused. I've been set up. I've been I've had monitoring spirits sent on me. I had all kinds of, pestilent attacks, and yet, I have asked the goddesses, what is my crime? What am I accused of? So, come to find out, I've been accused by my exes. I'm like, exes? I thought, I've been alone for darn near 2 decades. How does this work out? So then on my algorithm, I get shown how, because of the people, my exes that I love, that I poured my energy into, cannot fill the void that I had given them. That they're angry with me. And they're angry with their current partners because they're not me. I said, no. I said, they could get away with that? And Mercury told me, he said, well, typically they can't get away with that unless, they're able to find a corrupt judge. I was like, oh my God. Right? And I said, well, what does that mean? And they were like, well, now that you bring it to our attention, we're going to dethrone the corrupt judge. And then I kind of told Mercury, I said, look, I think it was 2 judges. And it was like, 2 judges? I said, yeah, they was in collaboration. He's like, oh my God. He says, you kind of know who these judges are? I said, yeah, I kind of do. So that's why, when you're dealing with corrupt judges, you don't feel as if you're ever going to get justice. And oh my God, Mercury, he kind of like disappeared for a while and left me to sit there. Because I'm like, what happened? What happened? So I'm watching more information on all of these videos that they have out here on Gemini. Okay? And then Mercury comes back to me and he says, don't worry about it, Cherie. Tomorrow is a new day. It is a new day. I'm like, how is tomorrow any different from any other day? He said, well, fortunately, in divine timing, you have Mercury in the first house of Aries, which is the house itself. And that is why I am here to talk to you about your disconnect with your real ruling sign. I was like, what? He says, nobody can say that they have rulership over you just because they have a transit in your chart. I'm like, I kind of thought that, but you know how Saturn is, Saturn, he be trying to, he be trying to, whip everybody down into submission and stuff, and, nobody stops him. Like he did with, like, no, don't worry about that. I'm like, okay. And I was like, yeah, but my Saturn is also at home in the 10th house on my MC. And then, Mercury had a very grave look on his face, like, oh, I see. Right? So Mercury told me, he says, look, don't you worry about a thing. Tomorrow when you wake up, you will feel a weight lifted off of you, because he's going to talk with Mercury. He's going to talk with the judges. And he's also gonna talk with the moon goddess. I said, the moon goddess? He said, yes, the moon goddess. I was like, what? So he said, just remember who you are. Just remember. I said, okay. Now remember, all these energies are energies for your utilization. Period. to restrict you. I was like, oh? Right? I'm like, well, what about all of this backstabbing and, because Mercury is supposed to be like the 8, 9, 10 of swords in tarot. He was like, yeah, that's witchery. I was like, it's witchery exactly. Right? And he was like, witchery ain't got nothing to do with you. It's like, no, it don't. So then I woke up this morning and I'm listening that there's all of these, there was another video of Gemini playing on my algorithm. Because I need to know that I am who I am, and people can't make me who they want me to be. I was like, yeah, I need my freedom. That's priority, right? And the people that I had let go, those were people that was very possessive and tried to control me and dominate me and, and turn me into something that I am not. And they were like, yeah, now we know. Right? Because, I have been being ushered. I have been being ushered into starting my YouTube channel. And every time, I try to start my YouTube channel, before I get a chance to even really get any kind of viewing, I feel like it gets blocked. Right? And Gabriel said, don't worry about that. That's going to cease and arrest. I was like, okay, thank you. Right? And so then he was like, so now you can do what it is that you want to do. And I told him, I said, well, I'm going to combine all 3 deacons because that's all in me. Okay? And he was like, oh, yeah. Just do it. I was like, okay, well, let's go. Let's go. So, yeah. Really? That's the second time. Okay. So, I woke up feeling pretty good today. Right? Like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders that helped me to understand why I feel good when I'm by myself. I don't mind letting people in my space. But these are people that have to keep up with, what I'm into and not make me feel like, what I'm into is not what they're into. And I got to change what I'm into in order to be what they're into, and 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 that's the way that it's been, right? And the sad part about it is, it's like when you're in a relationship, most men aren't into it very much, right? Most men, they're either into gambling, right? That's why most of them watch the games, the competitions. Most men only watch competition so they can wager bets. It's not because they're athletic or have this prowess about themselves. No, most of them, they're couch potatoes. Most of them, they're overweight and out of shape. Okay? So they bet on other men. They place wages. They place wages on everything. Okay? And if they're not doing that, then if they're working, they usually like to work solo dolo, unless, you're going to uplift them. And it's like, nah, you can be solo dolo, because if I'm going to spend my time and energy, giving you support, I at least want to get paid the supporting actress wage. And they're like, nah, I might give you a gift or two. I like, a gift or two? I said, that sounds more like a promo. a promo item to promote you. So anyway, and of course, when it comes to having like a bestie or a friend or something like that, they all get, dominated and scooped up, by, the attention of some guy, and that's happened quite a bit, where, I could be hanging out with a bestie, and the bestie, of course, will get the attention of a guy, and I guess, she feels like that's her opportunity, her opportunity, to get with this guy, and I'm like, okay, cool, wish you all the luck in the world, because, most men, they just want to see what you would put up with. How far you let them, drag you through the mud. And you jump up, wash yourself off and call yourself Wonder Woman. And I know, because I've done it myself, right? But when it comes to cheating, I don't. right? Because cheating has, it can have dire, dire effects, long lasting effects, right? Hi. So, but at the same time, I do realize that, you know, as women, you know, it's our job, you know, to keep the race going. Okay? Make sure that we keep having these spirits come into this realm. And turn this realm back into the vacation planet that it was supposed to be for the universe. And not this prison planet where not even the inhabitants want to be here. Okay, okay. Whew. This is that beautiful walk that I told you that has all this foliage that blocks the sun from beating down on you. So I love this walk, especially when it's really hot. Today we're supposed to get into the 90s, right? So that's one reason why, I came out here and decided to go ahead and get my walk on, because it's going to be hot today. And even if they block the sun, it's going to still be very warm and humid. So, getting back to what I was talking about was that you didn't go all the way around?
No, because then he sees the little machines and he wants to get off. So I avoid that.
Okay. Okay. He wants to be on the machines. So, so I'm out here getting my walk on before it gets too hot. Had to race outside of the house quick, because I can drag around, and before I know it, it'll already be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? And we just didn't want that today, because we were feeling pretty good by the messages that was downloaded to me last night. Right? And of course, there were other messages out there that were negative. But we're not talking about those today. Well, not in this video. We might talk about it later on. But in this video, we're just talking about, look at the chemtrails. See the chemtrails? See how they expand and they become like a gaseous type of cloud. You know, they're not like the puffy, uh, the puffy, moisture saturated clouds. These are like a film, it's like a residue of clouds. And like I said, they usually do it because powerful people on our planet cannot tolerate extreme heat. Now, why they're not living on a mountaintop, I don't know. I don't know. Why they're not living up north, I don't know. I don't know. Why they're not living in the Antarctic or at the poles, I don't know. But yes, this is so beautiful. The foliage of the trees and the leaves and stuff have sprung because it's springtime now. And it's like walking in a cave of foliage. See? But you get some sunlight. You get some spots where the sunlight comes through, which is nice. It's very nice. So anyway, one of the things that I thought about when I was leaving the house was wanting to find another wig, right? Because these wigs, you know, they've lasted about but at least 2 or 3 months. Okay? They've lasted about 2 or 3 months. And it's been great. But you know, the kind of care required, you know, it's really not my forte, right? So I'm thinking I can buy another wig because I'm looking for a different look. Yes, a different look. Although I like the looks that I have, I'm still looking for a different look. Something that would make me feel like sunny. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a wig that will give me that sunny feeling. And I have a kind of idea of what I'm looking for. I just don't know if it will be stone. Hi. So what do you think about the walk, huh? How you like to walk, baby? Baby? You. She like, I'm tired now. Yeah, she gets tired. She brought me a gift last night, and I had to throw it away and give her a treat for being such a great cat dog. Yeah. So once these trees blossom out, then it would just be so luscious. These are pecan trees like my tree, and they're just starting to bud. But once they blossom, once they get their real leaves going, yes, they are a great shade providing, nut providing tree. So what time is it? Okay. So this high school must have a lunchtime about now, because the kids are coming over here to the park. The high school kids coming over here to the park. When I pulled up here, I seen a couple of high school kids jump into an Uber over here at the recreational center. Like, okay. But getting back to what I was saying, my problem had been is the guys that I had dealt with, were disenchanted with me, because there are times that I do need my alone time. And even though everybody needs alone time, some of us, we have to deal with our alone time in different ways. So, say for instance, true to the Gemini definition on how Gemini are very communicative type of people, Gemini can talk a lot and say a little or nothing, right? In other words, there are times when Gemini would just use people as sounding boards to their thoughts. And yet these people don't have, a significant place in my life, right? And so I have to dissect the information that they give me and see if I can utilize it. Not the person, the information. Okay? Okay. So if I'm with a partner and I get into one of those moods, they have to be genuine with me. And if they can't be genuine and transparent and honest, then I'm going to have to get my information. I'm going to have to get more reliable data from other people. And a lot of times men, through their possessiveness, they're like, no, you can't go anywhere. You can't leave me for however long you want to go, period. Right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool, right? You done found you somebody that you could, keep with you at all times. So what's the big deal? Why impose on my freedom? Right? Because I don't have a man. I should be free to wander the land. I don't need a handler. And everybody that, claimed that they could be my provider and protector, I ended up having to be protected from them. And I was like, I'd rather be alone. Oh, that's a camera. I was wondering what that was. It's a camera. Oops. So yeah, they got cameras posted at various places here and there in this park. I see there's one over there that was damaged. And but like I said, I was reassured that the two justices that was interfering with my destiny were going to be severely punished because they used their position as a justice for a personal matter that involved third, fourth, with people that they don't even know, and situations that they didn't investigate, right? Because I'm one of those people that is talked about in the spiritual community where the possessiveness of these earth signs, because I'm not going to call them kings, because they're not kings. They might be old, but they're not kings, right? Well, they might have had moments of being a king. Oh, look. What is that? Some kind of troop.
Thank you, road guard.
Oh, hi.
Thank you, road guard. Thank you, road guard.
So those are kids aspiring to be in the Air Force. Interesting. Hopefully the Air Force won't be used for the same way that it was used here on this earth. That it would be used for, going into outer space. And that we would get on this Star Trekky mission soon. Okay? So, come on, baby. Hold on.